So as you know, as I mentioned to start off the show, the economy and the numbers that came out, the job numbers that came out today are terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it, they're terrible. We've learned that there are 258,000 fewer jobs gained in May and June as first reported. We're also learning that this is the worst jobs report as a whole we've seen since 2020.
Wow, that's unreal.
So, Z, how are right-wingers dealing with this? Well, Maria Bartiromo, who I think is a complete right-wing buffoon, this is how they reacted this morning when they saw and heard the news. They called it disappointing. This is how Fox Business reported this, and Maria Bartiromo reported these numbers.
The NASDAQ down about 200, going 73,000 jobs. 73,000 jobs created in the month of July. Number just coming out.
And that's total.
4.2% is the unemployment rate, right in line with expectations. Here are the numbers. For the month of July, jobs came in at 73,000. That was lower than the expectation, which called for 110,000 jobs. The unemployment rate right in step with expectations at 4.2%. Steve Moore, your reaction.
Look, I think this is all a result, this disappointing number is a result of all the turmoil over tariffs and the trade wars.
Yeah, no crap. By the way, Donald Trump has just fired the labor statistics person. We're just learning right now. Yeah, God forbid we give out the truth. Yeah, no crap. It's because of Donald Trump and his tariffs. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due, okay? Telling the truth. Listen to this Fox Business commentator this morning talk about this July jobs report. Z, I have to give credit where credit is due. If they call things out as they are, and there are very few on Fox, but there are some, I think we have to give them credit. This Fox Business commentator this morning, again, she is the official Fox News business commentator. Listen to how she responded to this report.
Today's report is really going to shed more light that this was a very weak report. The revisions, certainly to May and June, are very concerning. I'm surprised unemployment is just at 4.2%. I know that, they're looking at that number, but they need to look at the whole picture. We do see a softening market. Now, there are jobs out there. I know you did ask me about that. There's still opportunities, like some of the hottest jobs, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, data scientists, analyst roles, but these are really skilled, high-level positions. These are the top occupations that are growing, and we need to get more people into these fields. They pay six figures, but a lot of those entry-level positions, Maria, are going away. So I am concerned about the labor market, that we need to get more people in trades and in skilled roles, because that's where the jobs are.
Well, for sure. And I think, to discuss the healthcare, the marriage of healthcare and technology is huge. And that is creating lots of jobs.
Yeah, creating lots of jobs, Maria. But that was their official Fox Business commentator that was telling the truth. I can't believe I'm saying that. What do you make of that? I mean, that's Fox Business.
The question is, how quickly is she going to get sued?
Yeah, right.
Trump.
Yeah. Z, I cannot believe I'm about to say this because I can't stand Senator John Kennedy. I think he is an absolute buffoon and a despicable human being. However, today, I agree with Senator John Kennedy. He just did an interview on Fox News, and when he was asked about these job numbers, he couldn't hide away from it. I can't believe I'm saying this. I agree with Republican MAGA buffoon John Kennedy. Here's his reaction to these numbers.
Everybody in Washington now seems to be an economist, and some of them just don't know what they're talking about. Taking their advice is like taking the advice of a nun about sex, and a lot of them are trying to score political points. Let me try to be as objective as I can. It wasn't a good jobs number. It wasn't. The job market is softening. Our business people are creating fewer jobs. But on the other hand, unemployment stayed steady at 4.2%. We had job growth last month, annualized about 3%. Inflation has not spiked. Point three, you've got to put this in perspective. I wouldn't trade America's economy for the economy of any other country. Certainly not Europe, not China, certainly not Canada.
All right, so he's trying to spin it there at the end, and he doesn't want to make it all negative. The report was better last month and the month before. Hey, idiot, this is the worst report we've had since 2020. Okay? How many years is that? MAGA math. 5 years. Worst report we've had in 5 years. I can't believe Kennedy has to call it out. There's nothing else he can say, right?
Yeah, no, there really isn't. I mean, that's the thing is I think that Trump is putting a lot of these Republicans in a place where they're either going to lose their integrity or they're going to have to say the truth. And I feel like, I hate to say this, honestly, but in a way, I kind of feel bad for them because I feel like, I mean, they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't at this point. And it's just because of his shitty leadership at every level.
So I think we all know that Tim Scott is a guy with no backbone.
Can we say bootlicker on the show, or is
Yeah,
that?
I think you can.
No.
There's some other words that I could use, but I let people who happen to be black use that word towards him. I won't use the word.
Pussycat.
But I think you know, well, it's another word.
Like a relative?
Yeah, it's another word that I won't use, but I'm going to show you in real time how stupid this guy is. He's on Fox News yesterday, Leonard, and he's talking about the fact that we're almost at full employment, doesn't understand what mass deportation is going to do to that. Listen to Tim Scott on Fox News yesterday, and then we're going to just dissect and explain how stupid this man is. Have a listen to this.
What we've seen so far is inflation's about 2.7%. Our employment almost at full employment, 4.1%. What else do we need to have this economy on fire? We need lower interest rates. Lower interest rates, in my opinion, will drive up wages, and the average person in this country will be much better off. Powell has said that he's still waiting for more information to come in on the tariffs. What we've seen is historic. President Trump was right on tariffs. More legislators, more leaders are coming to the conclusion Trump was right.
Yeah, there you go, sir.
There you go. I'm just another ditz blonde on Fox News who doesn't know what. Yep. There you go. There you go. Pete Hegseth, great man. I slept with him multiple times. So let me just explain this to Tim Scott, if he happens to be listening. I'm sure he's watching Newsmax right now. And let me ask you a question, Leonard. What is one of the easiest ways to destruct and destabilize an economy at full employment?
Mass deportation.
Hey, there you go. That's why Leonard should run for governor.
Can I explain a little bit? Because what happens is the population, or in this country, if they only want the white people to stay, you can't possibly have enough children fast enough over the generations to keep the country running. And people don't understand that. They say, let's kick all them out. Let's kick those millions out. Well, guess what? Now you have to keep up your own population. And I believe this happened in Indonesia and a couple of other countries where they mass deported and the economy almost collapsed because they didn't have enough people to keep it running properly.
You're right. Mass deportation, around 4% of the population. If you want to destabilize an economy at full employment, the Trump administration is doing a great job of that. But Tim Scott either doesn't seem to understand that or is refusing to admit it, maybe a little bit of both. Tim Scott, a very stupid human being. This chick, Faulkner, on Fox News is one of the worst. First of all, she's a complete airhead. And second of all, she continually spreads misinformation. I want you to listen to this exchange she had with a Democrat where she's making the case that if the crime rises, it's all due to this defund the police narrative. By the way, this guy who's running for mayor in New York City has said openly he does not want to defund the police. 99.9% of Democrats have said openly they don't want to defund the police. What some of them have said and what Joe Biden did was he reallocated certain funds from some precincts to others. That is not defunding the police. So this whole idea that these MAGA idiots out there are saying defund the police is a blatant lie. Listen to this idiot Faulkner talk about crime rising, and then when she actually gets a real statistic from a Democrat, which is that the red states are leading with murder rates and high-profile crimes, listen to how they just nudge that actual real fact off to the side. This is a perfect example of why I don't call it Fox News, I call it Fox Noise, and Faulkner embarrassing herself live this morning.
George Floyd, but in the city of George Floyd, Jacob Frey. Your party is running someone far, far to the left of Jacob Frey, and he is being called right now the Midwest Mom Donnie. He wants some of the same things. He talks about defunding the police and free grocery stores and free transportation. And you think free is free. But if the crime rises, and it always does, this is what we see. No. We already know it does. When you defund police, we already know it does.
He says he doesn't want to defund the police. That's what he says.
I'm giving you an example of where it's spreading. I'm giving you an example. And since Mom Donnie likes to go back to the origin of his comments being in Minneapolis with the death of George Floyd, I'm saying, look at what's cropped up there. This is something that you guys will come to a reckoning to in your party. It is a divide in your party.
There are much higher rates of crime in red states than blue states, of murder, of gun deaths in red states governed by Republicans than in blue states.
That's a nuanced
fact.
That's a nuanced
Just a
statistic.
fact.
That's a nuanced statistic. We can get into it later. I know we have to move.
Sorry.
We do. It's always like this, though, right?
Notice how they just move on from that fact. Notice how they just brush that off to the side, and Faulkner is such an idiot. That is true. And Faulkner's trying to make the claim that all the crime is rising in all these blue states, and it's just to fund the police narrative, which is a lie. And then when she's fact-checked, and the most serious of crimes and the murder rates are higher in most red states than blue states in the United States of America, her response is, well, that's a nuanced statistic. What that means is I'm not going to acknowledge it. I'm not going to acknowledge that fact that makes me look bad. I mean, she is just the worst. And then listen to this exchange she had on polling, where she's making the case that inflation is down, which, by the way, it's not. The new report said it's up a little bit. She lied about that. And this guy on there is sharing Fox News actual polling that shows you how many people in this country are frustrated with how Donald Trump is handling the economy. And once again, Faulkner gets completely embarrassed and destroyed on her own show.
Who do you think this really does come down to having to impress the American people right now? Is your party, Mike, you guys are not all moving in concert with one another.
No, I mean, we lost the last election, so we're having a lot of tough conversations about how we build a new Democratic Party. That'll keep happening until we elevate a new candidate. What I'll tell you, though, is I think both political parties are completely out of touch with the day-to-day lives of most Americans. There's a lot of polling out in the last couple of weeks talking about how frustrated people are with inflation and pricing and housing and things like that.
Inflation's at 2%. The GDP
inflation's at 2.9%, actually, Harris. It's
the GDP just popped to 3%. I mean, we haven't seen that in a very long time.
If I could point you to Fox's own polling, Trump is negative 30% on pricing and the inflation. It's as unpopular as Joe Biden ever was. So the American people are pretty frustrated with where their lives are right now. There's a Navigator poll out just this morning or yesterday that has a lot of Americans saying they're worse off than they were 6 months ago.
Absolutely and positively ridiculous. And I'm so glad that this guy was on there, spreading truth to Faulkner's lies once again. Inflation is at 2%. No, it's not. It went up again. And again, making the case that it's all the Democrats. Fox News own polling. And he's right when he says Trump is more unpopular when it comes to inflation than Joe Biden ever was, based on Fox News only polling. So listen, Faulkner's an idiot. Fox News has absolutely zero credibility, and it's an embarrassment.